Good morning, everyone. I am so glad to be here this morning. And after that trailer, that wonderful music, wow, the blood is like running hot in my veins right now. I really want to get out and work in the garden, especially after almost a week of freezing temperatures here in Dallas. I am ready to go and dig in the dirt. But first, we've got some business to take care of. Good morning again. I am Rhonda Bellamy Hodge, and I am the Director of Social Justice Program for the Denton Black Film Festival. And welcome to all of my gardening friends, my gardening and farming enthusiasts, and even wannabes. This morning, first of all, we want to thank you for being here, as well as thank you to our presenting sponsors, NBC5, the City of Denton, and Panavision, and all of our other sponsors. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have some wonderful guest panelists this morning who were with us last Saturday about this time. We did an in-person presentation and it was so well attended and so well received that we thought we would continue the conversation this morning on food justice from the point of view of apartheid, from the point of view of rejuvenation, from the point of view of appreciation, and the point of view of distribution. So right now, I'm going to bring on my two guest panelists and let them introduce themselves to you. First of all, we have Coy Pointier, and next we have Darcia Houston. We'll let them do their own introductions.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Darcia Houston, better known as Major Melanin in these streets for agriculture. And I'm here as a farmer, as a organizer, and as an execution of, the things that are wrong. Darcia Houston here to talk to you today.
Thank you,
Hi.
Darcia. Go ahead,
I'm
Coy.
sorry. Hello, my name is Coy Portier. I am the co-owner of Portier Farms, which is a urban agriculture startup. I'm also the executive director of FAWC Conservatory of Arts and Sciences, where now our goal is to teach people how to grow their own food. Sales, I'm a salesperson over at Jackson's Home and Garden. And lastly, I am your representative for USDA Farm Service Agency's Urban Ag Committee here in Dallas County.
So as you can hear and see, we've got some very experienced and excited guests here. I want to just give you a little bit of background as to how I came to the Denton Black Film Festival, particularly in the area of social justice. A few years ago, I was a guest panelist when we were talking about the criminal justice system. And the next year I came on board and we talked about housing. So I had people from the local area talk about different facets of housing. And last year, I talked about voting with some panelists because we were going to be coming up into a very important election year, even though every election is important. But of course, the Congress and Senate were going to be up for election last year. I started graduate school at SMU a few years ago, having spent most of my career when I worked professionally in the business and marketing arena. So when I went back to graduate school, I wanted to get a master's in liberal studies. And people said, well, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to study human rights and social justice and humanities? Business is your thing. Well, business is my thing, but real life is even a bigger thing. And when I started looking at and really re-educating myself all over again, I realized that social justice touches every aspect of our lives. And in particularly, food touches every aspect of our lives, even more so than the criminal justice system, because many of us may not ever have any interaction with the criminal justice system. Some of us might decide that, we've got our house and we're satisfied. We don't really care about what everybody else might have. We're not affected by housing as much. And certainly some people even choose not to get involved for whatever reason. I won't really give them a side eye, but for whatever reason, some people might decide they're not involved in the political system. They don't vote. But I don't know if any human being or any living being, including the cat that thinks he's my cat sitting next to me, food is his thing also. Plants, guess what? Plants need food and other nutrients in order to survive. So food touches all aspects of our lives. And as one person came up to me last Saturday and said, I was going to leave your session because I didn't understand, like, what does social justice have to do with food? And then I just broke it down to the fact that, geez, when we go to the grocery store, and even if we're at the best of grocery stores, the Whole Foods, the Sprouts, the natural grocers, even the farmers market, we may be thinking, I'm buying the best. But how many of us have really thought about the people that are growing the food, the people that are harvesting the food, the people that are driving the food sometimes across country, the people that are stocking the food, even when the food goes bad? Are you thinking about what's happening to that food? And most of us, quite frankly, we're not, because we're very narrow focused when it comes to food, as long as we can get what we need and what we want. So I invite all of us, even if we never want to be a gardener or a farmer ourselves, I invite all of us to think about those people who may not be working in the best of circumstances, who may not have enough to eat, even from a food pantry standpoint. Some of the items that food pantries give out are not the most nutritious and healthiest items. We all know that. But oftentimes, if we've not been affected by it, we're not thinking about it. And as I said last Saturday, and as I've had to come to understand for myself, is that oftentimes the people that are involved in the grassroots, the ground level, the soil level of food production, they're being exposed to chemicals. They're being exposed in the fields to, let's say, not enough, if any, restroom facilities. And I can't help but to think back to my ancestors who were enslaved people and later sharecroppers. They were exposed and sometimes victimized by those same things. Or just think about when you think about immigration, and a lot of our farming and harvesting and growing is oftentimes done by people here with without proper papers. And with that, that exposes them to a level of abuse and discrimination. And so, on top of the fact that they may be exposed to chemicals, they may be exposed to poor working conditions, they also may be exposed to opportunistic people who will prey on them, male or female, adult or children, because they know if a person is here illegally, as they say, that they might be afraid to report things to the proper authorities. And as I said last Saturday, not that this gives anyone a reason for violence, but just a couple weeks ago, someone in Moon Bay, California, killed and assaulted some of his coworkers. But how many of us listened to the rest of the story to know that this was on a mushroom farm? And once the murders took place, once the shootings took place, then it became news of the abuses that had been taking place on this mushroom farm for years. And some of the workers had reported it, but it didn't get any coverage because a lot of these people are here without proper papers. So it wasn't a big issue. So again, I want us to think about the people that are behind the scenes of what we put in our grocery carts, or even what we put on our farmers markets. But I also want us to think about our ancestors, whoever they might have been, if they had any service as far as farming and gardening, even if it was a small garden. And I like for us to pause, as I now have learned to do, no matter the fact that my ancestors had it really tough in Alabama, in Virginia, in South Carolina, and other areas of the South, because they were farmers, they were sharecroppers. I didn't even understand what the word sharecropper was. I'm gonna be honest, until just a few years ago, until I read this book right here called The Warmth of Other Suns. And that book, that one book, helped me understand. It's about the migration, the great migration that took place from the South to the North and even to the West. But that book helped me understand what sharecropping really was all about. Because as an uninformed person, even though I was so-called educated, I thought people were just sharing the crops. But I didn't understand the social justice impact of what it meant to be sharecroppers, and how many people were cheated out of their crops. They were cheated out of their money. And some of them were even cheated out of their very land and literally run out of town to save their lives and save the lives of their families. So for just a moment, I want us to pause and think about the people in back of us in the food chain, in the farming chain, in the gardening chain for just a moment. Just think about those people and think about their names, even if they're unnamed. Just think about them for just a moment. Thank you.
You're
And,
welcome.
and again, I just want us to open our eyes, open our minds, open our thought processes to what it means to be a farmer. And I'm going to ask Coy and Darcia to talk more about what they do in the urban farming area, and particularly how we as grassroots local people can get involved. And certainly, Darcia, I want you to talk about your women in ag. uh, Coy, I want you to talk about your farm. Just bring the audience into your everyday life as a gardener, as a farmer, as people who are trying to get the rest of us on board with this. Darcia?
Awesome. Yes. So, as a farmer, my everyday life is very different from most of the people that I work with. I usually am up because I need to pay a lot more attention to the moon than most people. And I need to pay a lot of attention, of course, to the Son of God. But that moon is a lot more important to what it is we do. And a lot of the produce and things that I'm a part of right now are nightshades. And they're not the most healthiest, always either. But taking that into consideration, that my day might start as early as 3 a.m. And by 3 p.m., I'm exhausted. And so, evening meetings and all of that kind of stuff is really hard for me just in the life of a farmer. And that also means, what does that look like for my household or for my kids, that play sports and things of that nature? So if you know farmers or people that do this on a regular, basis, please just keep in mind that um you know our time frames, like, we live in two different worlds literally on time. And then regarding what it is I do for the community, and everything, I honestly probably came into with a selfish, reason. I wanted better health. I wanted to eat good food. I wanted to figure out how to filter my water because I want my kids to be healthy. I want my daughter to have a healthy womb. So when she reproduces, all of these things I think about. So I come into these spaces very selfishly, however, with an abundance of information to share with anybody because I want everyone to have access. And so, how I provide access to people is to make sure that it's not so much about your growing style or how you're trying to grow. Just knowing where the nutrients is in your growing medium is very important to me. So I created a company called Filthy Rich Nutrients, and that is an LLC. um, I was with the Texas Women's University, and Accelerate Her, which helped me think through this process. And as COVID crept in, I couldn't afford this process. So then I had to go to mulch. So now I'm a soil and mulch farmer. I do have a little piece of land that I am growing soil on to make sure that the customers that want to patronize with me have the best start. We want to give our kids the best start in life. And then I also have Dallas Ag Women, where I am the president of the chapter here in Dallas. And I uh, created this with my business partner and vice president, Mr. Jerry Robinson, because we want women who are only 1% of our farming agricultural livelihood, so they say. Most of these farms are probably owned by a man or something, but we be out there, really, really getting it in. And so I want to help women on a small scale in the urban communities be able to start growing microgreens in their house, in their window. I want to help you grow herbs and things that might help and add value to the business that you've created. You more than likely, if you're gravitating towards my energy, you're probably a homeowner. If not a homeowner, you are a business owner. And with that said, you're looking to add value. And that's what Dallas Ag Women brings about. And then the last thing that Darcia looks like is educating and motivational speaking, encouragement, self help, empowerment through hip hop crop curriculum. I go to and work with schools. I work with the seniors as well, but I bring the idea of vibration. And it's so imperative to have a good vibration, but also utilizing the sun of God and the moon and many other elements, to inspire, to bring about science with the idea that we want to eradicate our device addiction and our radiation access. So those are my things. That's my world. That's what I think about. And thank you so much for the question.
Thank you so much, Coy. Can you shed some light on what you do and what a day in the life of Coy Pointier looks like?
Yes, thank you for that. Excited to be here. I thank you for the invitation again and to be a part of this. I believe to be a very important conversation, one that we don't see much and it's glossed over and it's looked over. So I'm so honored to be here again. Uh, the day for Coy Poitier consists of waking up in the morning as I take my son to school. We travel from Dallas to Lancaster every morning. And from there, I'm in the garden. Uh, Pretty much, I spend my whole day there. It's so funny. I get in the garden maybe at 6 o'clock. And when it's 6 o'clock to leave, I realized that I've probably never left that spot. Time goes so fast. I won't have anything to eat, won't have anything to drink. And so I will have literally been out there 12 hours, maybe one break, but right back out planting and constantly learning. Another part of my day is watching videos. And as I say this all the time, and she probably gets tired of me saying this, with Darcia and another lady called Deidre Muhammad. From them, I was educated on the importance of soil, because for me, it was about putting things in the ground, water them, and they're going to grow. And when Sister Deidre Muhammad came out, and she said, why are y'all feeding the plants? Why don't you feed the soil? And when you feed the soil will feed the plants. And that concept changed my life. And we saw our produce or our plants whole DNA changed, should I say, the whole look of our plants, the strength of our plants. And that's the importance of learning for people who's been there before us. So Katrina and I, my wife, who we out there together along with my parents, they donated an acre to our nonprofit where FAWC Conservatory of Arts and Sciences, where we train people. You can come out to our garden. You can learn as we learn. We have over 60 plus fruit trees. Of course, we did lose some to being uneducated at the time on trees. And so we're now replacing those trees. And now that we have an understanding of how to grow, we're now educating and helping other people learn how to grow fruit trees as well. And so that's part of the everyday life is usually I'm there 7 days a week. Morning, and then I come. The good thing about my life is I also work at Jackson's Home and Garden. So I work with plants. I help to grow plants. And then I actually give plants and food away. Another part of the education is I was able, through a curriculum I wrote for National Geographic, to teach kids about working together. And I used the concept of the three sisters. And if you know anything about them, those three vegetables actually work together to, one for protection, support and all of that. I use that concept to teach youth how to work together. And from that process, we were able to take some young men, teach them program, teach them how to grow, how to maintain a garden, and also prepare the food that they helped to raise, and did an awesome demonstration for their parents. And from that, I've been able to, and I'm still waiting. So I want y'all to send some prayers up that I'm waiting to hear back from National Geographic. One of my lifelong dreams is to become an explorer with them. And I'm waiting on that email. Hopefully, if I get it, I will get to travel the country as an explorer with National Geographic with their teachers fellowship program. And so, believe me, if you see me disappear for a couple of days, it's because I'm staring at my emails, waiting for that. And oddly enough, when they asked me what was the first assignment I wanted, and y'all gonna probably laugh, I chose Antarctica. So if I if I get a chance to go, watching real quick, just watching the National Geographic shows back in the days, I always said I wanted to go there and study life there. And so that's really the one thing that led from trying to bless people with plants to an opportunity to probably travel the world as an explorer. I can say farming has truly changed my life. And I think going from a law enforcement officer to a convicted felon to now a farmer, I think my path was designed. And I think I have been appointed to this. And I also have a conference called Felony to Freedom, where I love to grow people. Going from convicted felon, I teach people how to grow their food, and not only to change their lives, but helping them grow. So that's my thing.
Well, can we just stop now? Can we just stop now and just say thank you just for the stories and the insights that both Darcia and Coy have given us in terms of their life's work and purpose. A couple of things that came to my mind as I heard both of them speak, and as I look back on last week and in the previous week, when, quite frankly, I was just getting to know these two people as well as the other people that were on our in-person panel. Because in my little world of gardening here in Murphy, Texas, it's pretty insular. But once I let someone know what my subject was going to be this year in terms of looking at food from a social justice and human rights perspective, names kept coming up and the same names kept coming up. So I reached out to these people, but what I did not know is that they knew each other until a couple Wednesdays ago when we were on a Zoom call. And as everyone brought up their video, it was like, hey, Coy, how you doing? Darcia, how you doing? Major Melanin. And to know that there's a community of people, and I dare say, and I can say, because I am a woman of a certain age, young people who are pouring into the lives of even younger people to make sure that they understand where their food comes from and the energy or the synergy, as Darcia mentioned, the vibration that is required to have good, healthy food. And I must say, Darcia, I have never heard anyone say they're basically investing in their daughter's healthy womb so that when she starts to reproduce. But you know what? That's something we need to think about, because we truly are what we eat. We truly are what we eat. When Coy says, the woman came out and asked him the question, why are you feeding the plants? If you feed the soil, you'll feed the plants. And as he said, he saw the whole, and he may have said DNA, the whole structure of his farming changed, that his mind changed, his way of doing things changed. It is so important that we invest both backwards to the younger generation, but also forward for those who actually have the knowledge. Because Coy mentioned the three sisters. And I know many people perhaps have heard of the three sisters, but they just might think of three sisters who are related. But in the context that he talked about it, it's three sisters, which goes back to the Native American planting tradition. And correct me if I'm wrong, Coy, that's beans, squash, and corn.
Yes, ma'am.
And I won't go into all of that because this is learning. When you have some time, you go look and see what the three sisters means and the support and look at ways that we can even use the concept, as Coy did, of three sisters, of supporting each other, nourishing each other, giving shade to each other, not shade from a negative standpoint and not sunglasses, but shading to help us thrive as human beings. Because what I learned in getting to know the people on the panel and the other people that were there last Saturday is that they support each other. They support each other. And later on, when I'm going to ask each of them to talk about how you in the audience And even if you're not listening from the Dallas Fort Worth area, I guarantee that there might be people, even outside of your neighborhoods, wherever you are, look for those people and look for people that you can come alongside and help them grow their business, grow the opportunity to feed their communities. And guess what? If they don't exist, you be the person to start it. You be the person that started. Coy mentioned videos. There are lots of videos on YouTube and other places that can help you be that person to start this in your own community. One thing I wanted to ask you about, Darcy, you mentioned this to me when we had our conversation as to whether or not you would participate on the panel. And you said something that stuck with me. You said, and I want you to talk a little bit more to the audience so they'll understand this too, because people always say, well, I don't have a green thumb. And you said to me about water. And just a few minutes ago, you mentioned filtering water. So, can you talk to us about the importance of water and how that plays into what color your thumb is? And not the fact that it's brown in my case,
Mhm.
but the green aspect of it and the importance of water.
Definitely. I thought that this was the panel of just social injustice was the place to talk about water and how it's disproportionately filtered and or delivered in a healthy manner to different communities. And so I was an exchange student at Paul Quinn College with Duke University, and I studied at the Nicholas School of Environment, Ecological Restoration, Social Injustice, Environmental Racism, Community Planning, and Outreach. And up on my permaculture education from Cuba with Rev Del A and Soil and Souls, all of that helped me to understand that there was an injustice with our water, and a lot of times that we'll get a water sample or a test or something from the plant, like we just literally get that in the mail from our city
Mhm.
and we run with that and say, oh, our water is X, Y, and Z. We're allowing someone else to test for us and to say what it is before it's been delivered to your house. And Justin Duncan from NCAT explained this on our weekly talk that Dallas Ag Women have. And he said, I challenge you to take that test and then test your house, because the route in which all of this water is going, your pipes and the delivery to your house in the southern sector or near the railroad or whatever could be extremely different. So the quality of water is different, which might have more metals and a lot of different things. And when the body ingests these horrible metals and bacteria and E. coli and all these things, our bodies deteriorate. So what do you think is going to happen to the plants if they're consistently doused in water that is not beneficial, that's high in toxins and a lot of metals? So people say, none of my plants were really growing. Everything was kind of stunted, or, they really believe that they can't move forward or they don't have a green thumb because they are challenged with the water. They might have went and got heirloom seeds. There's a difference between the hybrid and the heirloom and all of those. So they might have went and did everything right. They purchased filthy rich nutrient soil. They got the mulch.
Mhm.
They ready. But their water might be one of the factors on why they can't grow.
Mhm. Let me ask you this. I wanted to certainly today to be, yes, about information, about education, but also in the end, solutions. So let's say you are that person. You've got your soil test, you've got your water test, from the city, everything looks fine, but you're experiencing problems with the vibrant growth that you had expected from all of your investment. What are some things that we can do as home gardeners, as home farmers? What are some of the things that we can do to perhaps mitigate some of the challenges that we have from a water perspective?
There's a few things that could happen. Number one, participate and go and educate yourself on rainwater catchment.
Mm,
How can that system work for you? And a lot of farms or places should want to have it just because our water is a scarce resource.
yes.
And with that said, you are in a drought or anything else, you're able to at least maintain your own food supply because you have this rainwater catchment. Then worry about what are the filtration processes you can afford or handle. Because most of my Dallas ag women are small garden farmers that are not necessarily all using a water hose, but I'm sure that there's some sort of water filter, maybe that can go on the end of the water hose. And if you're watering as a container gardener in the house, you can go get a Brita, you can go get, some sort of thing to filter your water. But there's also ancient techniques I would challenge you to look into, such as why did certain people take water and hold it in copper containers for at least 24 hours? There's certain things that the water that they're adding to the water that can actually come out of the water with just by having it sit. So once you get your water test and you say, oh, well, this is, I don't really know all the names and chemicals other than fluoride and chlorine, but if you say that these things are high in my water, then what are the side effects? What is happening to me? And then do I notice this in my garden? But how can I mediate that high amount of whatever your test yielded, if that makes any sense?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Well, and I hope that again, the takeaway will be know where your water levels are in terms of if you want to get your water tested, but even if you don't want to, I love the idea of rainwater. I think you said catchment, but catching rainwater basically, because most of us can do that. But even more so, even if you don't want to catch rainwater, especially if you are in a drought area like we are in Texas and like it is in California, you can let your water sit. I think I heard you say let your water sit for 24 hours. Any of us can do that. So there are things that we can do from a solution standpoint until something else is done on a higher level in terms of, city, state, and national governments. There are some things we can do to improve our success levels in our garden or on our farm.
I had a soil sister that recently listened to the talk because of a lot of the side effects for her eczema and many different things. And she's a caterer that has double convection ovens and everything in her house. She said, because of that water talk, I went and got a filtration system put on my whole house. I will not be a caterer at a commercial kitchen in the southern sector of Dallas. And I haven't tested that water, but I'm using this water for my products. So, you want to see what you can do. Her system was every bit of $10,000, but I bet you it's worth it because now medications and illnesses have already, creams for eczema have already been omitted based on this water system.
Wow, that is amazing. And just as a point of information, our bodies are primarily water. Primarily water. So imagine the effects of what a great system of water, whether we're ingesting it in our bodies, using it in our cooking, or watering our plants, or what an investment it will be for our own health and well-being, as well as possibly the success of our businesses, whether we're a caterer or whether we're a farmer or a gardener.
Lastly, you
Yes.
must talk to your water. Your vibration, you have the ability to change the dynamic of water. So talk to your water before it sits, just be appreciative of everything. But you talk to that water, there's already science that will tell you that you can change the dynamic of your water.
Coy, did you want to go ahead and add something? And I'm gonna follow up with a point on that watering, or actually just talking to the water and the vibration. But Coy, I know you wanted to get in here, and if you don't have something, I wanted you to talk more about that experience of the soil, because so often people again don't know the importance of feeding the soil and how the soil feeds the plant. Because whether you are a container gardener or whether you are a raised bed gardener, or whether you are digging the bottom layer of a regular in-ground planting, soil is so important. And if you can talk about, how do you build up your soil if you're not doing container gardening, let's say?
Well, going back real quick to what Darcy was talking about, even with water, what I found out at, or what I found with some of our urban farms in the southern sector, they're struggling with the fact of not even having water. And so we're trying to see how we can solve that issue because they're building these farms. And one thing that people don't think of when they want to build these farms is, wait a minute, how am I even going to water this stuff? And I met a lot of people who didn't think about that until after they did the whole process, got the farm going. And it's like, wait a minute, we don't have the rain catchers. We don't have a way to get water out here. And that was one of the things that ended up messing up their whole process or messing up their whole progress of their farm is not thinking about water, period.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the things that on a checklist that I tell people, what's your water source? You know, how are you going to get water out here? And some people have been trying to work with the city of Dallas, which has, you know, to be honestly, has not been a fan of making sure some of these farms have water. I don't know if they're trying to solve that issue now, but uh, when you make your checklist, that's one thing that you need to think about. How are you going to water the plants?
Okay. We had a question here before it rolls away off of my mind. We had a question here from Derek. He wanted to know if rainwatering is more beneficial than tap water. So either of you can chime in on that, answer that for Derek, Coy or Darcia.
Yes, rainwater is going to be the best because it's natural. We are consuming and paying for water. We're paying for this water to come into our house and hurt us, and we're paying for bottled water, y'all, that there's no regulation on. Where is the ingredients? You know, this thing, when I opened it, I don't understand. You know, it's in a bottle that's known contaminant. And then they say, oh, don't drink hot water if water's been sitting in the sun. How do you know what the delivery process was of this product? You don't know how long it was sitting out. If it's came to your house via Coca-Cola or Nestle or whoever else, how do you know how long it's been sitting out? Like with meat, you know, or dairy products, we kind of know that with smell and how that product deteriorates. But with water, you would never know. Somebody can go and give us 5 cases of water tomorrow for our children to play football or whatever, and we do not know how long that has been sitting in that bottle like that.
And
Okay.
also the process of getting water from the wells with the tap water and all of that whole process. I don't really understand that process. I did work with the Natural Resource Conservation Services, or NRCS, to try to get a well dug out at our garden. But once again, I can't speak for the process of getting that water from there to your garden. So I don't know what comes with it. So pretty much what Darcia is saying would be the best solution if you can get the rainwater. But be honest with you, that's something you definitely want to get with NRCS to come out and test your soil and your water. That'll be a good idea there. First, Derek.
Well, I just want to add this. This is not scientific. This is grandma, and this is anecdotal evidence from my own garden. And you all may have noticed this in your own area when it rains, how everything greens up. Everything. I mean, I've always said, and my grandmother always said, you know, after the rain, baby, everything is so much better after the rain. Everything is greener. I didn't understand the scientific component of that, but rainwater is high in nitrogen. It's high in nitrogen. And if you know the first the 3 letters associated with fertilizer, the first letter is nitrogen, and nitrogen is for greening up things.
Yeah.
And so of course, here in our area, most of the ice and the snow or sleet is gone now. But what I learned to do was to scoop that up in a barrel, scoop it up, and then it eventually melts, and let that be my watering. So again, don't let any opportunity pass you by to gather up rainwater, to gather up snow, to gather up sleet. Do it safely, but that can be some of the. It's free for one thing, in terms of it comes from God, comes from the sky, and utilize that in your gardening until something else changes in terms of your ability to get water to your farm or water to your large garden. Use what we have, especially if it's free and beneficial, to become the best gardener, the best farmer that you can. um, I wanted to move on and go back and ask Darcia a bit about the Ag Woman. If you could briefly tell us about that and how someone can participate or find out some more information about that.
Yes, in the chat, I will put it up again. But Dallas Ag Women, it's a $30 annual membership to be a part of our organization. What we do is I'll send out a welcome email. We're very small, we're brand new. So I'll send out, your welcome email once you sign up. And then I literally ask, tell me how you want to proceed. And a lot of people will respond in that email and say, I want to know about mushrooms. I want to know about rainwater catchment. I want to know about soil, or I want to learn these different things. Do you know? Can you teach me? And a lot of times I don't know. So what I'm getting ready to do is we're getting ready to go schedule some mushroom farm tours or something like that. And I will help and assist you along with my vice president, who is very, very knowledgeable in the cannabis, hemp, specialty crop, backyard liberation gardens, and aquaponics and aquaculture. So he has a great skill set that I don't have. And then we have the ability and have resources that we can bring to the table to help a lot of people be successful. Moving forward with Mr. Coy and the soil building up, we're scheduling right now a tour so that we can visit the Portier farm, and we can see for ourselves how he's building up this soil or how he gets his resources, because they get all kinds of resources now. They ain't been able to tell you how they get, how they got started and how they keep just, I mean, the Lord loves them. I mean, they get a lot of cool stuff. So we're going to go take a tour to his farm. So we are action steps. We want to know what you want to know, but I'm not getting ready to do it for you. However, I will connect you with the people that you need to be connected with. And there's no shade or greed, like, oh, I don't want her to learn this because this is what I'm doing. No, I need her to learn this if this is something she's interested in, because there's no way in the world I'll be able to feed everybody. And I don't like disappointing, folks that I care about. You my customer and stuff, and I don't got what you need. So those are the things that we are looking for to help you, but we are not going to do it for you.
Thank you. Coy, could you pick up and carry on about the soil, or even if you want to briefly tell us how you got started with your farm? You don't have to tell us everything, as Darcia has hinted, but to just encourage us to, you mentioned earlier, you went from law enforcement to convicted felon to now, prayerfully, you will be traveling the world with National Geographic. I'm just going to say you will be traveling the world with National Geographic, and we will look back and say, we knew him when. We knew him when. So if you could just tell us a bit more about your journey to farming.
Yes, I mean, it all started really real quick, us feeding kids in Pleasant Grove, those kids that we thought were coming for arts and sciences, and they were really hungry. From that, I believe, God gifted us because we were giving back to the community. He told, had us to visit a Walmart who was giving away a couple of plants for free to nonprofits, to the manager approaching us and saying, hey, my general manager said that we have to get rid of all this stuff. Do you have a place for it? Well, we'll take it. I mean, at the time, I didn't know anything about plants and had no desire. As a filmmaker and musician, I didn't care anything about plants 3.5 years ago. And so as we found a truck and we brought it down to our nonprofit, we actually called Texas A&M to come get the stuff. We didn't have anything to do with it. We sold a few for fundraisers. We gave a bunch away. Jeff and Stephen Hutchins came out and they said, listen, you have all this property. Why don't y'all just plant this stuff? And we told him, we don't know how to do that. He said, just plant it. Jeff said, just plant it. If you plant the trees, we'll come back out and we'll see what you did and we'll kind of help you out. They came out. They were so surprised how Katrina and I and some members of the church planted the trees. They just sent Katrina and I to Master Gardener School for free. And from there, in that school, the life and the love of plants is what came to me. And that's where I got the chance to meet other people. That's where, we got a chance to meet Darcia later on as a master gardener. and Deidre Muhammad as a master gardener, the education I got gave me a better understanding of how to grow. And once I learned the basics of how to grow, it made my passion for this even higher. And from there, my parents gave us an acre. They knew we had no clue what we were doing, but my mom says, Coy, I know you. And so based on that, she gave us an acre. We, from there, started Deloach Urban Agriculture Center, which we named after our parents. And we began to teach people once we learned how to grow food. And once again, when Deidre McCormick came out, talked about soil, that kind of changed my path into gardening to focus more on the soil. From that, I started to learn more about nutrients, micronutrients. I started learning about the life that's in the soil. It's on the top of my head. I can't think right now, but uh, mycorrhizae fungi. That's something I'm studying up really deep in to get a better understanding of that. And so things increased for us because at first we were just putting stuff in the ground, dry, no life soil. Then we started learning stuff about compost and no till, about not just taking up that grass. If you have grass there and you have plant life already there, stop tilling and tearing up the life. You're killing your earthworms. You're killing the nutrients that's already in the soil. So through those processes, we're starting to learn more and more. To be honest with you, every day is a lesson for us. We learned recently after the last freeze, don't just go out there and start pruning a lot of our greens. Don't start pulling stuff up. We really wanted to come out there. We saw all this stuff dead. We left it alone. And if you could see the life that's in our garden now, the greens look stronger than they did before the snow came. I'm hoping that same thing happened when I go out there tomorrow. But my dad called and said it looks beautiful out there. So I'm going to believe, because the processes that we're putting in place before we put the stuff in the ground, that our stuff is surviving because of that. So that's the importance of soil to me, is knowing what's in the soil to fix the soil. It's not always about digging stuff up. It's not all about tilling the soil. That was an old process that we used years ago. And because of that, we've taken we've killed our soils. We've taken a lot of our nutrients out of the soil. So that's where our goal is now, is being soil evangelists, kind of saving the soil and saving our plants.
That is so important. I love what you said, killing the earthworms, killing the soil, and just, there are people who are making zillions of dollars as large corporations, literally composting. They're doing earthworm farms, but
Yeah.
we can feed the earthworms in our own garden, on our own farm, and not destroy them with equipment, or with, whether it's a hand hoe or whether it's a tiller. So there's so much to be learned and so much to get excited about. But I also wanted to share that, and to reiterate that not everyone is going to be a large scale farmer or a large scale gardener. Not everyone is going to literally be digging in the dirt, whether it's directly in the ground or in a raised bed. But I want to encourage everyone to, again, think about the fact that you can grow something. Uh, Darcia mentioned growing herbs. She mentioned growing microgreens. My specialty is container gardening, because most people can do a container garden. And last week, we actually had Darcia and Coy and the two other people plant an herb garden, and they raffled it off. And people were like holding on a ticket saying, I want to win that. I want to win that. So a wonderful lady in Denton actually won it. And when I saw her on Sunday at the festival, she was still so excited about it. She had taken it home and watered it. And I'm sure that in a week later, it's even looking better, because as we tend to things, not only do our plants look better, but we look better, we feel better. So I wanted to do a similar thing for this Saturday, but it's just too cold outside. And I checked on my things in my container. And like Coy said, my greens are looking like wonderful, because I left them alone. I didn't panic and go and try to, pull them up out of the container. And I'm hoping to have some collards for dinner for Valentine's Day. But I wanted to do something on container gardening because most people can get inspired and do something, in a container, and it's kind of a control environment, if you will. You can get the best soil, maybe something like a filthy rich nutrient or something like that, or the best soil that you can do. You can add compost, you can add, table scraps, as long as there are no meat or dairy products in there. You can do a lot in a container. So since I can't do it live, I went back to YouTube and I found this ancient, and I say ancient, video that I had done some years ago. I'm pretty sure that the elements are still on target, but I'm going to ask Adam to pop that up, and we'll just take a break and watch that. And if you have any questions, I know between the three of us, we'll be able to answer those questions for you. So, Adam, if you would pop that up and play it, and we'll see what happens. This is a gardening session with Rhonda. We're going to be planting a salad bowl right outside your door. I've assembled all of my tools and all of my ingredients here. I've got a very large container. I've got a selection of gardening plants, of salad bowl type plants. I've got my water. I've got everything ready. Hopefully this will go quick and you'll be inspired to plant your own salad bowl right outside your back door or on your patio. First thing I'm going to do, because last year I learned that not only do I enjoy salads, but so do the slugs. So I'm going to lay down a layer of protective barrier in my very large reclaimed tub from my landscape center. You can find these, or you can use any type of pot, but because I'm going to be planting such a large salad bowl, I'm going to use a very large container. So I'm just going to lay that in. And because as a gardener, I also believe in using what you have to get what you want. And to further create a barrier, I'm going to lay down some wet cardboard in the bottom also to deter the slugs. And over time, propose and actually help improve the quality of the soil that's in your salad bowl garden. Next to that, and to encourage drainage, I'm going to add some broken pieces of pottery shards, which help the water to drain successfully. Because another thing you need for successful gardening is good drainage. Can you come in and see this? So I've got my protective barrier, my landscape fabric barrier. I've got my cardboard, and I've got the pottery shards. The next thing I'm going to do is a modified version of a technique that's called lasagna gardening. And with lasagna gardening, you basically do composting in your container or in your garden area. I'm going to start by loading in some really great quality potting soil, which for me is a combination of organic humus, organic compost, some landscapers mix, and a bit of my own composted garden soil, because I know that it is already full of wonderful microorganisms that's going to have me be very successful with my garden here. I'm going to fill this up since it's such a large container, and as you can see, it's going to take quite a while. So I'll be back a little bit later to show you the progress. Another great component that you can add to your lasagna gardening, shredded paper. This is from my shredding. I shred all of my bills and unimportant papers that I don't want anyone else to get a hold to. I shred those, and I can use those in my lasagna garden. So I'll put in a layer of soil, a layer of the shredded paper, and items that will be generally put into a compost garden. All of my kitchen scraps, banana peels, coffee grinds, things that will actually add something great to my soil structure. Can you come show this? Doesn't look so good right now, but believe me, it really improves your soil. Basically, when it comes to composting, anything that was once alive, as far as plant materials, garden scraps, all of that can be used in a compost pile. Even things that come directly from your yard. These are leaves and plants that I picked up over the last couple of days. They can be added, and particularly at the bottom layer of your garden. Because by next summer, this will be completely broken down and you'll have the most fantastic garden soil. More soil. Now that we're getting pretty close to the top, I like to add in a more concentrated layer of my existing composted garden soil. And I know this seems like a lot of work, but remember, I'm a seasoned gardener, so if you're just starting out, just use what's applicable to you in your area right now. You'll get the basics from here, but please feel free to take what I'm giving you and customize it to your own situation. We'll come back in a little bit and show you more progress. Well, most of the hard work is done now. It's time to have some fun. I really like planting very large containers because you can have so much fun. It's like mixing up a big batch of batter or dough. Of course, you can see some of the paper that I put in. It's a very light soil mix, perfect for containers. We're filled up to the top, and now it's time to start planting. Okay, what should we plant first? One of my favorite things to plant is arugula. And I love buying plants in these already made peat pots because the peat pots actually decompose and help to improve your soil structure also. And arugula is a wonderful salad green. It gives like a peppery taste to your salads. I love it. You don't have to take the plant out. You simply plant the whole pot. You take a little bit out of the bottom so that the roots will grow through very nicely, and you set that at the place that you want it to grow. That's my arugula. I've got Swiss chard here, which is a beautiful plant. Also adds a nice peppery flavor to your salads. The nice thing about it having rained last night is that the plants are already wet, because you want to actually plant your plants that have been dampened either with water or with rain. You can put a little bit of water, extra water on it, place it where dig a little bit of hole, place it where you want to plant it, and there you go. I love all kinds of lettuces. This is romaine lettuce. This is a perfect time for planting a salad bowl. I'm going to add a little bit of water to the holes I've already dug. In this water, I've added some fish fertilizer, which is a wonderful non-burning organic type fertilizer. Doesn't smell the best, but it really does a wonderful job for your plants.
I'm going to finish planting this and I'll come back and show you the progress.
Well, we're back.
Showing you more progress. I've placed in all of the plants, and once you're settled with, this is the way you want the plants to be placed. I've spaced them pretty nicely so everything will have room to grow. Next thing you do is just add in some additional soil around the base of the plants. Press it in to make sure that they're securely seated. I've added in butter crunch lettuce, which is here, spinach, which is here. This is the spinach. Romaine lettuce, which is where we started. Swiss chard, arugula, some nice pansies for color and additional interest. Of course, you can eat them if you like. They will be grown without pesticides. I don't believe in pesticides when it comes to food. Couldn't resist adding in a few herbs like parsley. The fall and the winter is a perfect time to plant parsley because you're not going to be in competition with the butterfly larvae, which is great, but I also like to eat the parsley. More Swiss chard on this end. It's one of my favorite salad greens, so I plant extra of that. Marjoram, which is a herb. It's a trailing herb, so it will grow and hang over to the side. Some red sales lettuce, which is here. Another favorite salad green of mine is French sorrel. It's pretty hard to find, so when I find it in a garden shop, I buy extra. And this one I actually transplanted from another area of my herb garden because I love it so much and I want to keep it growing all the time. It has a tart, pungent taste to it, but it really adds a gourmet taste to any salad. Finishing up at the back here with some more red sales lettuce, more spinach, more butter crunch lettuce, making sure all the roots are nicely covered up and the plants are securely set in the soil. I'll finish this up and come back and show you the finished product. Well, the salad bowl garden has been completed, and no garden would be complete totally without a sign. This is a salad bowl garden, and I'm encouraging it to grow, and I'm also encouraging hope. No matter where I garden, no matter where I go, I encourage hope. Thank you for joining me for the salad bowl garden. Bye. Happy gardening.
Yay. I think it still works. I think it still works.
Great video.
Yeah.
That was a really good video.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
I must say that container, when I emptied it, it had a fig tree in it. I had grown a fig tree in it. And now the fig tree is in my yard. Its name is Otis. I believe in naming trees and plants because that's the way to honor our ancestors.
Yes.
And Otis was my brother-in-law who passed away in 2011. And when he passed away, I broke off. The last thing I did before I left home in Alabama that year was to break off a branch of his fig tree because I had been trying for years to grow figs. I grew up on figs, and I added it to a little stump of a tree that I had bought at the close of the season at Lowe's that year. And I basically blessed it with Otis. And the following May, I had the tree and it had buds and it has bared fruit. Not a lot because it started in a container, and because again I have to manage things to the extent that I can on my own. But that is my Otis fig tree, and now it's probably about about 8 feet tall by about 6 feet
Mhm.
wide. And it has survived these last few years of storms that we've had. But that container now grows my cucumbers and my winter greens in another part of my garden. So, again, anyone can garden, anyone can be healthy, grow some type of food, either for you and your family or as a business. So, thank you all so much for indulging us and watching that video. And if there are any questions, please feel free to ask, either in the chat session, or the video is easy enough to find on YouTube. And any of us are on, all of us are on social media, and we will definitely let you know how to get in touch with us, and you can ask follow-up questions there. So, and if and when questions come in, we'll address them then. But again, thank you. Now I really want to get outside and plant something.
Right? Because we plant gumbo gardens with
Yes,
the
tell us what a gumbo garden is. I'm not familiar with that.
It was during Kwanzaa. Pan Africa Connections in Dallas is our headquarters for Dallas Ag Women. So if you ever, think or want to know where our sessions will be, they're always there. But we had Miss Marty Doucette that did a vegan gumbo, and it was a huge hit. Like, I mean, Sister Girl sold out like that, and she had multiple containers, and to make the roux and to make gumbo is it's a tedious
Yes.
job. So I was so impressed, and she had already started a garden, and so I said, you know what, most of these ingredients, you got a gumbo garden right here, so we can continue this. Then another soil sister by the name of Linnell, who owns Diva Lynn's Cajun Catering, she was like, I do gumbo, but I do the traditional gumbo, and I still need a garden. But she is in an apartment. So we started her garden in the window, and I've taken so much progress of her green onions regrowing. So she was more of a regrow from the grocery store, versus Miss Marty Doucette was actual seeds and transplants, in her ground. So just trying to correlate the garden to what you eat. You eat salads a lot, so she made a salad garden. And then she seasoned her garden with the arugula and mustards and all different flavors. And then even the parsley and cilantro or whatever. So that's what we try to do. If you are, I make the best salsa. Well, but you need a salsa garden, baby.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
That is so important. I love that, in terms of planting what you will eat, or what
That's
your
right.
family will eat, because that cuts down another aspect of food injustice, or food from a social justice standpoint. And I'm not sure. I think it was perhaps Ples last week that talked about food waste. And I
Mhm.
won't go through all the numbers and everything, but if you're growing your own food, more than likely you're growing basically what you can eat or your family can eat. So that cuts down on food waste so much. But all is not lost, even if you waste some of it, or some of it goes bad. As you may have noticed in that video, I was using
Compost.
spent plants to make
That's true.
compost. And I was actually even composting in the container.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
as a farmer or as a gardener, you can keep the rejuvenation going. Keep the rejuvenation going. It really helps to um, take care of the earth, and you're doing it from your own home base, if you will. You're doing it from your own home base, whether that's on a large scale, the way Coy is doing it, or doing it as a business, the way Darcia is doing it, or doing it in a container. Everyone can participate
Mhm.
in farming, in gardening, even appreciating it. And I wanted to show you all a book that I have become also very, very fond of. This is a book called Farming While Black,
Mm.
and it is by Leah Penniman. This was she's in the Northeast, but she started a farm in New York. But I advise you to take a look at her book, because she goes from the start all the way through setting up her own farm to just feed her family, then feeding her community, and now having co-ops or CSAs. But it's the encouragement and the fact that she says, and I quoted this when I put pitched this program: was in order to free ourselves, we must be able to feed ourselves.
Mhm.
Just think about how important that is. Darcia mentioned medications, freeing ourselves from medication. Think about the pandemic when we couldn't go anywhere. Yes, grocery stores were deemed as essential businesses, but if you were afraid to go, and if you couldn't get things delivered to you, think about the freedom of being able to go to your own yard, to go to your own garden, to go to your own farm and enjoy that freedom of being able to feed yourself or your family.
Mhm.
Think about the freedom of owning a microgreens business
Mhm.
and being able to generate income from your windowsill. Think about how wild that is. That I can feed myself, I can pay my bills through what's going on my windowsill.
Mhm.
Or for people who want to be mushroom farmers, and geez, I was definitely interested in that. We had the storm last week, so I didn't get to go to a conference where they were going to be talking about mushroom farmers. But think about being able to take care of your financial situations by growing mushrooms off of logs.
Mhm.
Mm.
Or think about the fact that someone gave you free stuff from a commercial big box store like Walmart, and now you have a 1 acre farm that's
Amen.
able to sustain yourself and your family. So there's so many different possibilities, and so that's why people don't ask me anymore why I went back to get a master's degree and study human rights and social justice, because it impacts every aspect of our lives.
Mhm.
And I dare say again, none more important than food, because we all got to eat. We all got to eat. Um, Last week, one thing that I was not familiar with, and we didn't get a chance to delve into it more, but we've got some time here for you all to talk about. Last week, someone said, "Get your farm number," and I was busy hosting last week in person, so I couldn't. And other people had
Okay.
questions, so it's like I want to have you all talk some about the farm number, because I don't know what that is, and probably people in our audience don't know what that is. So I'm going to let the two of y'all have a conversation about what it means to get a farm number and how to do it. How to do it for those who might be interested in that.
And from a business side, if Darcia can talk about her experience about getting it, because it is very important to have that farm service agency number from the USDA when you're talking about doing farm business with the government, when you're talking about possibly getting grants, when you're talking about any way to try to improve your garden financially on the government side, you'll need that number. And the funny thing about it, the process of getting a number is a lot easier than it seems. A lot of people are afraid to go down there and try to get the number because they think the government is going to intrude on their privacy. They're going to be able to take over their farm. I can tell you right now, I've had my farm number for almost 3 years, and they've probably come out 2 times, and that's because I invited them to host functions from our garden, teaching people how to get their farm service number. But really, it's just a way for them to keep track, to give you the benefits that you're due as a citizen and as a farmer here in the United States. And so it's so important. I try to tell all of our people, hey, go down and get that number. You're part of the United States too. So I know they've had some issues in the past and probably still do have issues. But the goal is not to let that be a deterrent to go down there and get that number. And it's important for Darcy to tell her story and her persistence
Mhm.
on getting her farm number, because there may be some misunderstandings. There may be some people who still have an agenda for some of us not to get our farms, which I'm not saying that's what happened, but the persistence that she did to get her number, people need to know about that. So Darcy, if you could please kind of tell about, you getting your number.
Yes. So you all know that as far as commercially, I started farming commercially before in making money in agriculture through Paul Quinn College. So I overstand the grant process, the collaborations with other organizations. Immediately in my career, I know that I have to become a business partner with USDA. And what was so daunting is, if you were a part of National Women in Agriculture, Dallas Ag Women, we brought on Patricia Ray, which was my first success story, helping and creating Soil Sisters to um, magnify her business. She started off with just basil and um, she had basil and tomatoes, which they're best friends in the whole wide world, in the companion world. And she just had this one little table. She had some eggs. And as I started working with this organization in Dallas, I became a farm ally. And that was off to me. Why do we need a farm ally? Like, what is that? Like, what does that mean? And that meant that there was problems in the system, and there was beliefs and distrust and many other things that have happened to our ancestors in the past that we cannot ignore. Like, it's in our DNA to not be trustful with our land, which is the most, expensive thing. You can't buy it anymore. You can't make it. So it's the most precious thing a family could have.
Mhm.
And certain mishandlings and strategic processes have kept us from obtaining a farm number, knowing what a farm number is. And so this farm ally position was created by the USDA and the White House partnership or collaborative to make sure that mishaps and things that were happening were being reported, and or there was some proof, when people go to these spaces, what is actually happening.
Mhm.
So I took Patricia Ray, baby, and her process was easy peasy, beautiful, cover girl. So I was like, your girl got this. I'm about to go get my, I got my land. I'm gonna go get my farm number. I had issues. So me getting my farm number, I called the number that they gave me. The phone rang. I got a voicemail. I didn't like that because guess what? I'm excited. I'm on a mission. I'm ready to execute.
Mhm.
And there is a process of, we're busy. So once we lose momentum behind something, it's hard to get back up and running in that same way with that same mind frame. And you got all your ducks in a row. So I ended up calling another office and them telling me that I had to make an appointment. And I'm like, all the stuff that they were saying when I was in that class, this is not true. Like, these people are really not forthcoming with information. They're very standoffish. So I was like, I'm gonna call Denton. I'm gonna go get my farm number from Denton. So I called. The lady was like, hello, my name is such and such. And I was like, I'm looking for a farm number. And she said, not a problem. I said, what do I need? She told me everything I needed. My deed, I don't even think I needed my ID, but I took my deed, I took my ID, I took my LLC paperwork. And from there, she was just like, come on out and you'll walk out with it today. I said, in the name of the Lord, girl, I was on the way. I'm coming all the way from Dallas. I was coming from South Dallas at the time. It took me almost an hour. I don't care. I'm on a mission. So I get out there. She takes my paperwork, just pleasant as she wanted to be. And she says, oh, wow, I can't help you. You're not in my territory. And I was like, but my territory is like real standoffish. They're talking about making an appointment. She was like, no, 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 no. You shouldn't have to do anything. All you need to do is walk in with this paperwork and you should be able to walk out with a farm number. I don't understand. However, that's what that's the training we received. We thought that it was supposed to be this simple. Why? Because I don't have land. I don't have a whole acre. I don't have cattle. I don't have, livestock. I'm trying to be an urban farmer, and this is something you say you need for us to, motivate and move forward and apply for these resources. But at the end of the day, I get a hold of my office. They say I got an appointment 3 weeks out. And then the lady, and I recorded all these things because I am a videographer and photographer. I don't know how we get in these spaces, Coy, with all this media and at the Denton Black Film Festival as well. But I'm recording this process, and she's like, so why do you want a farm number? Or, I mean, do you have, or what are you growing? I was like, I'm growing soil. You don't need a farm number. Yes, I do. Do you have soy or wheat? Or, I mean, she just could not believe that this little urban farmer with this little less than a quarter of an acre wanted a farm number. And so her opinion is a frustrating thing because you shouldn't bring your opinion to work with you, boo-boo. We ain't friends. I didn't ask you nothing. I asked you to help me with my farm number. So with that said, to make a long story short, I pulled the card that I had to pull. I didn't want to, but I was like, excuse me, ma'am, I just want you to know that I am a farm ally. I have been and have to report back to this institution that I'm working with that this is my process and that I'm trying to be an urban farmer and you have no knowledge of this process. And that's very discouraging. Within, let's say, an hour and a half, I got a phone call from somebody that called me 2 or 3 times, I think a supervisor, and then I had a farm number in my email by that evening. But these are the things that you have to go through and experience. And I don't want to say have to, but I'm sure that it won't happen again. But do I need another farm number from them? So I don't know if it'll happen or not. But I do know that this person was aware of, did not know about the urban farming initiative. I truly believe that there was ignorance on that part. And then that leaves me to say that I want my agricultural associates or members to walk in with ease. So creating things that help tell the story or show the people that you're working with, this is what you want done. And I hate to think of it like that because I don't want to go to the doctor, even though I don't, and be like, I want this Vagisil or this, I don't want to tell you what I need. And you know, the chemistry of my genetic, my makeup, you got my blood type, you got my family history and all. I don't want to come to you and diagnose. So I don't like that process, but however, I see how necessary it is for your own sanity and for you to be educated on what it is you really want and how you're going to execute.
And also, so to give you the information for it, so that if you're in Dallas County, if you're in Kaufman County or Walkwall County, the USDA center that you'll talk to, their number is, and if somebody want to take this number down, it's 972-552-5254. And at that office, the county executive director is Stephen Tucker. His extension is extension 2. So you'll call Stephen and they'll talk you through the process of getting your farm service number. And once you get that number, that'll allow you to call, or they'll get you in contact with Natural Resources Conservation Service, which will come out and they'll give you a soil profile of your farm. They'll give you a survey of your farm. They'll do all these things for you for free. So that's why it's important to get that farm number, because there's other benefits you'll get as a farmer. Now, this number is for the Dallas County area. For the Denton area, if we have a lot of people from Denton, of course, you would have to find that Denton number. Probably, I think that's the office that you talked to, Darcia. But if you're in Dallas,
were fantastic.
If you're in Dallas County, at the time that Darcia did talk to Dallas County, they were new. The young lady who was handling that, she was just in office for a while. Stephen was in Washington, so he wasn't answering the calls. So she honestly, I believe personally, she has the stuff together to now and will be able to help you. But yes, call the Kaufman Dallas Rockwall USD Service Center in Forney. And to give you a heads up, for the Urban Agriculture Initiative, soon we will have a service center in Dallas. That is the board that I serve on. And our initiative is to help people in the Dallas County area. And there's some other news that I can't tell you that's coming up that's going to be even better for some of the people in Tarrant County. But it'll help get that information out that Darcia has talked about for people who's focusing on urban agriculture, not your big traditional farms, indoor farms, hydroponics, aquaponics, aeroponics. All of those different forms of agriculture will be able to be addressed at the time. But the number, once again, is 972-552-5254 and ask for Stephen so you can start working on that farm number.
And I'll just say, there's a sign right above me here that says never give up. And that's just a life motto for me. If it's something you really want, don't give up. Because we all know that there are roadblocks, both real and sometimes imagined. But some people are counting on you giving up. Some people are counting on you giving up. But don't give up, because the reality of it is that you have to begin with the end in mind.
Amen.
The end in mind being, I want a farm number. And the roadblocks in between where you stand and the farm number, you can help dispel those. Even if you have to go around people, even if you have to drive an hour or so to get to a different office. And I'm in Collin County, so I have no idea what the number is in Collin County, but I bet you can use this thing called the internet
Come on.
to find out. And if you can't find it on the internet, call that 972 number. I bet Stephan will be willing to shed light, to give you a contact person in the surrounding counties. And if you're outside of the state of Texas or not in the immediate metroplex, the number has to exist for your area. Because remember, this will replay later on today. And anyone who has access to, YouTube or Facebook, they'll be able to watch this later on. So just look for the resource in your area and never give up, beginning with the end in mind. If that's what you want as a farm number, don't give up until you get it. Don't let someone else be a roadblock to your success.
If I could
go ahead.
say something real quick, in my own personal life on that, never give up. I remember when the judge, before he hit the hammer, he looked at me in my face and he told me that you've messed up your life. He said that your life was over. And because of the rope he had on and the position he sat in, guess what? I believed him. And so for many years, the concept of my life was over stayed with me until I finally woke up. Wow. And I can tell you now, as a law enforcement officer, I did some great things. But as a person, and I don't like to say a felony convict, because that gives people, they put that in their spirit. I'm a person that's convicted of a felony. But during that time of being a person who convicted of a felony, I've done more now to impact other people's lives than I ever did as an officer, because I woke up and stopped giving up. And during that time, I've served for the city of Dallas's Confederate Monument Commission or task force. I was appointed by the county judge and have served on the Dallas County Historical Commission for now almost 8 years. And you got to understand, that's only a 6-year appointment, and I'm still on the board. This is the third board I've worked with for the city of Dallas. I've served on 3 boards for the city of Lancaster. And on top of that, I was elected in a federal official with the USDA. You got to understand all of this as a person who's convicted of a felony. So talking about never giving up, this is the time to go back and get those brothers and those sisters and start talking about social justice, to let them know that now is not time to give up. Now is the time to start impressing these young guys and telling them, I've been there. I know what it's like as a man having to have my apartment and my wife's number and she being the head of the household for years and wanted to give up and finally getting a chance to vote. The first time I was able to vote was for President Obama. The first time I was able to get an apartment in my name to support my family was only a year ago. So you're talking about never giving up. And the fact that I'm sitting on here today with 2 powerful and educated people that I can't wait to come to the garden, because I know I'm gonna learn. Y'all, you fooled me right now. I thought you was just a novice. You got it going on in this garden stuff. The fact that I'm gonna have y'all there at the garden, I'm gonna make sure the job knows I have to be at the garden that day, not just my wife, because I'm really excited and get more in the belief in myself, the more things I do like this. So once again, I thank you for the.
Awesome.
That is so important. And so, when you sign on, or as I said to Harry, the festival director, as I muscled my way into this organization, having, really I'm not a film person, because in order to watch films or movies, you got to sit in place in a dark room, oftentimes with strangers. And I'm more of an outdoor person. I like to be on the move, but I saw where we could marry the idea of film and social justice and human rights. And thankfully, Linda Edie, who is the director of programming, she finds films that are centered around social justice issues that I'm actually interested in, or she finds the film and then I get interested in it. So it's wonderful to be able to use the method of film to shed light on social justice. And Coy, I must say that you are the third person that was on my panel that has talked about how this has helped you personally to be able to come and share your story. And I had no idea about any of this because, again, I did not know you. I had only met Darcia back in October of 2018 on Paul Quinn's campus when I was there as a student volunteer. But God has a way of putting like-hearted people together. And that's why it's so important for all of us to get out of our comfort zones, to get out of our zip codes, to get out of our heads, to get out of our hearts, to look and see how we can come alongside people who are doing the work of social justice and human rights in our own neighborhoods. And again, I say, if you can't find a group, start a group. Start something in your own neighborhood, because then it becomes a part of your own life purpose. It becomes a part of your ministry. And as I say, you get to eat the fruits of your labor. How wonderful is that? Like I said, I'm planning to have the greens I have left in my garden for a Valentine's dinner, because they're going to be smack good. Because guess what? As my grandma Dee Dee said to me many years ago, she says, baby, you want to harvest the greens at least after the first frost.
That part.
I just went by what Dee Dee said, because Dee Dee, whatever Dee Dee said from the time I was like 2 years old when I met her until she passed away, what she said was gospel to my mother and my aunties. She said it. But then as I thought about what she said, and as I got more into gardening, and you're not alone, Coy. Most people don't think that I am a gardener or a farmer, but I let them think that. That's right. You don't look like it. That's fine. But what I learned was that the frost actually concentrates the sugars. And that's why the greens taste sweeter and they're more tender after frost has fell on them. My grandmother Dee Dee didn't understand that. She did not understand that, because she understood the wisdom that had been imparted in her from generations before her, who were gardeners, who were, and in fact, just one generation removed from being enslaved people. But as I learned more from an academic standpoint, yes, the frost, the cold weather.
I was thinking it's kind of an injustice that people don't know to eat in season and or local, because how much harm do you cause your body when you got to have greens all year?
Yeah.
They're not really supposed to be growing all year.
No.
But just because you can, that's where the abuse of labor comes in too. This is why those mushroom farms and those avocado farms and these other types of concentrated specialty crop farms are so dangerous, because there's such a demand and not a respect for what the earth can really do for you right there. If your medicine is where you are and what you grow, then me trying to grow a wrong type of medicine at the wrong type of season could add or take away some things, some nutrients from my body. It could rob me.
Absolutely.
Not so much, help me. So that is a great point. And we all are kind of talking about zero waste in a sense. Because we don't want to waste anything. Even I want to be composted. If I drop dead tomorrow, y'all, I want to be composted and a tree planted on me. I don't want to be, all in the tomb and all of that. Like, yeah, put some life with me.
I totally agree. I said years ago, who in their right mind would dig a hole, line it with cement, and put you in there inside of a metal box and cover you up with more cement? Wouldn't that $10,000, now up to probably $15,000, wouldn't it be better spent to truly carry on your legacy? Of course, most people look at me like I'm crazy when I say that in regards to being, cremated or composted, because there are now services that do compost human bodies in certain states. I don't think Texas is one of them yet. But again, when we think more widely about taking care of our planet, because there is no planet B. I don't care how many zillions of dollars that our government is now anticipating spending to send us to Mars. No, send them.
I ain't going nowhere.
Send them to Mars. But if we could think how we can take care of our planet right under our own feet, right outside our own doors, right within a driving distance of our own homes. My brother, God rest his soul, he would never, he lived in Fresno, California, literally in the bread basket of the Salinas Valley in California. He had tomatoes on his bush when he died on May 5th of 2013. He had tomatoes on his bush because he was preparing to eat in season. He said, I will never, even though he lived in California, I will never eat a tomato out of season. I will never eat that. And when people say, well, how do your greens grow so good? I grow them in season. Remember, Grandma just said you need to have the frost to fall on the greens. They're sweeter, they're more tender. There is no frost falling on greens in July.
Right.
And then they said, well, how do you keep the bugs off? Well, if you plant them in season, usually the white cabbage fly is not out.
There we go.
When it's cold. They come out in the spring and summer. So again, and some people don't want to hear it because in their mind, they've got to eat everything all year round, 12 months, 24/7 availability, because that's what commercial farming has done to our mindset. But what it's also done, it has been really co-conspirators in wrecking our planet, therefore wrecking our health, wrecking our, so again, like I say, I get all excited about this. I'm really like almost like holding myself to the chair here because I want to jump up and move around. But as we think about ways to, again, to encourage those in our audience to think more broadly about what they can do within our own communities. You all have mentioned tours. You all have mentioned kind of classes. You all have mentioned kind of my clients, developing relationships with big box stores so that you can get free stuff. If you want to take the opportunity to talk some more about that as we start looking at welcoming more questions or coming to a close. But I've really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed getting to know you all better and looking forward to getting on one of those tours or lacing up my boots and coming out and show you what kind of gardener I really am. I work hard. I'm from Alabama. I was born in Georgia, raised in Alabama, come from farmers, come from sharecroppers. So it's literally in my DNA.
Yes. So I'm coming out to the Portier farm. That's what I was talking about when we got on and backstage and things, because my partnership with Dallas Ag Women and Waco National Women in Agriculture chapter. I just love working with that group. NWIAA Waco they are a fantastic group. And why I say they're fantastic, because every time I go to something they have going on, they have whole families. You're talking about infants and toddlers all the way up to their grandparents are in the same space, having different perspective and different conversations with those children. Extremely bright. I'm talking, I love that. That's a holistic way to teach. You just teaching these kids at school doing what? They can't purchase nothing. They can't go home and say anything. They can't add value. They can say what they want, but that's a different thing. Teach them while they're young. Yeah, to a certain extent. But if you're not sprinkling none of that information on up the chain for that household, then you're like kind of losing. So I have partnered with them based on my love for what they do. They are action-based. They always have children and elders in the room, in addition to them wanting to come to Dallas, where I also met them at Paul Quinn College and gave them a tour. That was 2016, though. And throughout that, I go down to Waco to go to their classes. Now they want to come up. They said, who do you want us to do a tour with? the Portier farm, number one. If they want help that day, I want to give it to them. I want them to tell their story, because I am the people that want to be attached to me are action based too. So they're going to come out, and this family will be able to empower them from a whole nother family, so this will be a family to family thing. We're going to go to the African American History Museum. We're going to eat at Sankofa all together in fellowship at the last stop. But we're going to go back to Paul Quinn. I haven't been back since I quit. Didn't have a desire to, but I love gardening, farming, and that is ancestral land. And there was times where I was gardening on that or farming there, and I got my headphones on. I'm bumping, boom, 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 boom. I'm harvesting tomatoes, and I'm in the yellow pears and the purple Cherokees and the evergreens. And I saw this one tomato I really wanted, but my hand wouldn't go. And I was ready. Like, I got my buckets, everything. I'm beating the music. It wouldn't go. All of a sudden I did it again. It wouldn't go. I said, let me, how something happened. You got to hear. So you take off your headphones. Like when you're trying to drive, sometimes you turn down the music when you lost. I don't know why we do it, but I took off my headphones and I said, oh my gosh, all of these black widows are like so hatching right now. And I just felt so protected. And I was always out there by myself. Hummingbirds following me, the fish responding. So that kind of thing, I want to go back and see again. But yeah, we are going to put these farm tours together on a regular basis. We will have breakfast on the bus. We're going to start at 8. This is May 6th of 2023. But the Portier farm is the number one place I want to go. And I do want to go to a mushroom farm. If anybody knows of any, I do have one that we can go to. It's indoor growing. And I was unsuccessful, like failing on a regular basis with these spores. So I just went outside and threw them outside. Now I got mushrooms. Mm-hmm. What about you, Mr.
Coy? Really, our next thing is to try to increase our education reach, to start reaching more youth, start reaching more families, to make sure that everybody learns to grow their own food. We're doing that through our podcast called Gardening with Kat and Coy, which we'll have both of you on there to talk about what you're doing and the impact you're doing in the community. Also, I want to push more of the Felony to Freedom podcast, which I want to work with these people to try to convince them to never give up. And lastly, what we're doing with Portier Farms, we're doing two things. One is we want to work on food distribution. I was so disturbed when a gentleman was talking about bringing his food distribution business to South Dallas, but they were waiting for the opportunity to accept food stamps, for their company to be able to accept food stamps or whatever you call it. I can't think of the name, but food stamps essentially. And I thought to myself, that is the only reason why you haven't come yet, because you're going to increase your income. Because what most people don't know, that is the most spent form of, or that's the way you buy more groceries than any other farm in the state of Texas. More money is spent on EBT than any other way. And so businesses know that. And so it kind of made me disturbed that you would stand up without any, like you're saying anything wrong, to get there and say that you haven't come yet because you're waiting on the government to do that. So what I want to do is I want to create that now in our communities. I'm not going to be the next Bill Gates off of this. I'm not going to be the next, billionaire off this, but we'll be able to survive. We'll find a way to survive, but we want to be able to bring the food to the people. And another element we're bringing is creating a food forest. I think God has been doing this long enough, and we're going to take the same form what he's done, because all of our greenhouses and all that came from the concept of the trees and all of this garden and protecting the ground, and all of that came from God from years ago, from this planet. So we're going to create a food forest and grow food out there naturally. And as y'all just said it, y'all kind of hammered the point in, seasonality, seasonal food. As the stuff grows in the seasons, we'll sell it, provide that native plants, native vegetables, native herbs to the community, grown right outside. the way nature grows it. And so that's two of the things that 48 Farms is going to bring. We were going to do a lot of indoor farming. We was going to do a lot of the new technical stuff, but I started seeing that it takes us away from the people. And I'm becoming them. I'm becoming the people I talk about, and
Yes.
that's not that important to me. I lost a lot of money. I'm not financially where I would want to be, but I'm happy. My family's happy. We got one kid that's still at home at 15. And once he leaves, my wife and I are talking about getting a camper and travel around anyways. Wherever we stop is our address. So we're happy. And so I want to bless the people. We want to give back. And that's what 48 Farms is going to be. We're going to be a food forest and distribution for our people to get food that we eat. A lot of these farms, community gardens they're growing food that most of our people don't even eat. And a lot of that's another reason why a lot of stuff is going to waste, because it's being grown in our community but shipped downtown for the expensive restaurants, and it bypass all the people they're supposed to be blessing. That really bothers me. So we're going to try to keep that food in the community and bless the people. That's why we're here.
I love that. And we're about to wrap up here, but the word feed the people and freedom and has been used throughout our conversation here. And I can't help but to go back to Leah Penniman. A part of her talk, she says something along the lines of feed the people, free the people. Goes back to, in order to have, freedom, we must be able to feed our people. And in that thought of feeding our people, the idea of native crops, native plants, and also ancestral plants, things that our people, whatever you consider your people to be, whatever was natural and nutrient raising to them. Oftentimes people think of, let's say, black eyed peas. I hope all of us had some on January 1st on Emancipation Day. But a lot of people don't know the origin of black eyed peas or many other types of peas or okra or greens that are native to Africa or native to the Caribbean. And I'm just now learning more about this myself. And I've ordered some seeds from some organic seed companies, and I'm going to try my best to plant them in the best soil and have my water, whether it's rainwater or tap water. I'm going to try my best to have that sit for 24 hours before I do it. But it is so gratifying to learn more about what we're eating, the plants we're literally buying. If we're buying seeds or starts from garden centers, where did they come from? What's the origin story? What's the origin story? Or if you've been fortunate enough to get seeds from your own relatives, what's the origin story? Coy, you mentioned Cherokee purple. There's a big history behind that. And I'm not sure, because I've heard the guy who named it Cherokee purple. He is, in the Northeast. But again, knowing deeper about our food sources. You mentioned the felony to freedom, how gratifying it is to be able to encourage people to never give up, no matter what a judge has said, no matter what a potential employer has said, but to really be able to piece the life together that you want for yourself and your family. Because you said you're happy. You're
yes.
happy. And most of us are not going to be Bill Gates or anything like that, but I'm not really sure how happy he is. He just got divorced after many years. So, money doesn't necessarily buy you happiness. You may be able to cry in comfort, but an older lady said that years ago, and I kept that in my heart because that is important. Money may not be able to buy you happiness, but I can show cry and comfort, And as a gardener and as a farmer, I can walk through my driveway garden and my side garden, and I get the biggest kick of being out there and eating my way through it. And certainly now with two little grandsons who basically will eat anything that they can grab off of a bush, and to see from such a young age what I'm imparting in them from, and I keep the containers, I set them down low so they can literally reach and smell and rub them together and eat the blueberries and eat the strawberries and taste what arugula really taste like, even at 1 and 2 years old, because they're developing their taste buds then. They're developing them. And I want them to know that practically anything that's growing out in Dee Dee's yard, because that's what they call me in honor of my late grandmother, Dee Dee, is that they can eat their way to through my yard. They can eat their way through my yard. And that's what I want to be able to, for my whole community, even in my little suburban garden here, because the USDA says, guess what? I'm a farmer. That's what it says. I'm a farmer. And that backs up to what Darcia said to me back in 2018. I had no idea. But as the years have gone by, the way she describes being a farmer and the way the USDA describes it, I'm a farmer. I'm a farmer. So I just want to thank all of you. First of all, my guests who have come once again to join us. I want to thank you all for coming again. I want to thank those who are in the audience. I want to thank the prize winners here, because we do have door prizes, and looks like we're about to, we've wrapped them up. I have your names. I will get in contact with you to make sure I have a way to get them to you. I'll mail them to you. I want to just say thanks for tuning in to the DBFF, the Denton Black Film Festival virtual portion of this. And all of the virtual programming will be running through tomorrow night, Sunday, February 5th at midnight. So we still have a lot of the programming left. If you have not, gotten your virtual tickets, whether it was free or whether it was a paid ticket, all of those things are still available. And for right now, if you really like what we've been doing, there's a film called Returning to Our Roots film block. There are several films in that block, and it will further carry on the story that we've been talking about here. And there's also a conversation called The Future of Filmmaking and Content Creation. I want to make sure I'm saying that right, because it starts at 1 o'clock today for the discussion period. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Coy. Thank you, Darcia. Thank you to our winners, and most appreciative to Adam, who ran this perfectly from a technical standpoint. You're my best friend. You're my best friend, Adam. Thank you for making us all look good and sound good. I appreciate it. And look for all of us on social media. We're easy to find.
Please get your virtual tickets, because I did stay last week, and I went to most of those videos learning more about the African History Museum, just so much. So get your virtual ticket so you can participate and support. Thank you.
Coy, closing comments quickly.
Thank you. Just glad to be here. And I think someone in the comments said they wanted to get in contact with me. Please, the number's in the chat.
Yes. Okay. And we have a conference coming up, Freedom to Grow. It's coming up in October of 2023 this year. Please stay connected with Dallas Ag Women so that you can be one of those at the conference. We support children.
Thank you, everyone.
Forged by pioneers.
Hello, I'm Harold Taft.
An obsession with being the most accurate and protecting their community.
Please be careful in the Dallas-Fort Worth area now.
Upheld today by the largest and most experienced team in North Texas.
Sharing resources and expertise, pushing boundaries to develop exclusive modeling software.
Filling in gaps that nobody else can. Certified most accurate forecasting DFW in both English y Español.
NBC5 and Telemundo 39.
Denton County is one of the fastest growing counties in the country, and as the county grows, it becomes more difficult to commute. At Denton County Transportation Authority, we provide clean, modern public transportation. Experience the many services DCTA has to offer, including our 21-mile commuter A train, as well as our Connect bus and UNT campus shuttle services available in Denton, or our GoZone on-demand app-based ride-share service available in Denton, Louisville, and Highland Village. We pride ourselves in providing you with the connectivity and transit options to safely get you around town or the region. At DCTA, we are committed to safe, customer-focused, and efficient mobility solutions for Denton County. DCTA. We get you where you need and want to go.